Roger Powell adjusted his tie, his weathered hands moving with the precision of decades of diplomatic experience. At 65, he stood tall among the glittering crowd at the Prylorian Embassy's gala, celebrating 50 years of human-alien relations. The event buzzed with tension as whispers of the Prylorians' concerns about Earth's aging population circulated. Princess Marek, the 25-year-old Prylorian royal, entered the room. Her eyes, adapted for the bioluminescent depths of her homeworld, widened as they locked onto Roger. She felt an unexpected flutter in her chest, a sensation that confused and intrigued her. Raised on tales of youthful human virility, she found herself drawn to this silver-haired diplomat. The Prylorian ambassador approached Roger, his mandibles clicking with barely concealed disdain. "Mr. Powell, we must discuss your species' declining birth rates. It's a clear sign of human weakness." Roger stood his ground, his voice steady. "Ambassador, our longevity is a testament to our medical advancements and societal progress." "Progress?" the ambassador scoffed. "We propose a mandatory retirement age of 50 for all government positions. Accept or we'll withdraw our medical technology." The room fell silent. Roger's mind raced, knowing the stakes of this unexpected ultimatum. He'd been instrumental in the first contact negotiations, and now, despite his age, he was thrust into the center of a diplomatic crisis that threatened the very foundation of human Prylorian relations. Across the room, a group of young human diplomats huddled together, their faces twisted with jealousy at Roger's prominence. They whispered among themselves, plotting to sabotage the older diplomat's efforts and prove the Prylorians right about human decline. Princess Marek observed the exchange with growing fascination. She'd never seen a Prylorian elder command such respect or exude such confidence. As she watched Roger navigate the tense conversation with grace, she felt compelled to learn more about these human silver foxes. The gala continued, a facade of celebration masking the undercurrents of species-wide tension. Roger moved through the crowd, unaware of the young diplomat's scheme or the alien princess's growing interest. He focused on the task at hand, preventing a diplomatic disaster that could set human progress back by decades. As the night wore on, Marek found herself drawn into conversations about Earth's culture. She learned that many older human males, unlike Prylorian elders, maintained active lifestyles and held positions of power. This revelation challenged everything she thought she knew about age and vitality. The young human diplomats set their plan in motion. They arranged for a younger woman to approach Roger in a secluded corner of the embassy, hoping to catch him in a compromising situation. However, their scheme backfired spectacularly when Marek witnessed Roger respectfully rejecting the advance, his integrity unwavering. This unexpected display of character only deepened Marek's curiosity about human mating customs and the allure of older males. She found herself stealing glances at Roger throughout the evening, captivated by his silver hair and the quiet authority he exuded. As the gala drew to a close, the tension between humans and Prylorians remained palpable. Roger stood at the center of a diplomatic storm, tasked with navigating complex negotiations to preserve the alliance between their species. Little did he know, his every move was being closely watched by an alien princess, her preconceptions about age and attraction slowly crumbling with each passing moment. As the gala wound down, Roger's mind churned with the implications of the Prylorian ultimatum. He bid farewell to the departing guests, his diplomatic smile masking the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. Little did he know, his evening was a long way to go. Just as he was about to leave, a Prylorian aide approached him, mandibles twitching nervously. "Mr. Powell, your presence is requested at a private meeting with the Prylorian delegation. Immediately." Roger's eyebrows rose, but he nodded, following the aide through the embassy's winding corridors. The meeting room door slid open, revealing Princess Marek seated at the head of a long, iridescent table, her bioluminescent eyes fixed on Roger as he entered. "Mr. Powell, thank you for joining us," Marek said, gesturing to an empty seat beside her. "We have much to discuss regarding the proposed retirement age policy." Roger sat down, his practiced composure hiding his surprise at the princess's direct involvement. "Of course, Your Highness. I'm here to listen and hopefully find a mutually beneficial solution. As the discussion began, Roger noticed Merrick's gaze lingering on him. Suddenly, she veered off topic. Mr. Powell, I'm curious about human mating customs, particularly those of older males. Could you enlighten me? The question caught Roger off guard. He cleared his throat, choosing his words carefully. Well, Your Highness, human relationships are quite varied. Age is just one factor among many. Personal choice plays a significant role in our mating customs. Merrick leaned forward, fascination evident in her alien features. Fascinating. In Praelorian culture, males are considered past their prime by age 40. They're rarely sought after as mates. Yet I've observed that human males of advanced age, like yourself, seem to maintain their vitality. Roger felt heat rise to his cheeks, a sensation he hadn't experienced in diplomatic settings for decades. I appreciate the, compliment, Your Highness. Human society values experience and wisdom, which often come with age. Before Merrick could respond, alarms blared through the embassy. Red lights flashed, bathing the room in an eerie glow. A Praelorian security officer burst in, mandibles clicking rapidly. Intruders in the lower levels, human extremists, our systems are compromised. Without hesitation, Roger stood, his years of crisis management kicking in. We need to secure this floor immediately. Princess, please stay here while we assess the situation. Merrick rose, her eyes gleaming with willpower. I will not cower while my embassy is under attack, Mr. Powell. I'm coming with you. Together they rushed to the security hub. Roger's fingers flew over the control panel, bringing up camera feeds and initiating lockdown protocols. We need to reroute power to the upper-level force fields, he instructed the Praelorian security team, and get me a direct line to Earth's Rapid Response Unit. As they worked to contain the threat, Marek found herself pressed close to Roger in the cramped security hub. She noticed the steadiness of his hands, the sharpness in his eyes, as he coordinated their defense. It was a far cry from the docile, weakened elders she was accustomed to on her homeworld. Suddenly, the door burst open. A group of young human diplomats, led by the same ones who had plotted against Roger earlier, stumbled in. Sir, one of them gasped, we have information about the attackers. They're claiming this is a response to the older generation's mishandling of alien relations. Roger's eyes narrowed. And how exactly did you come by this information so quickly? The young diplomat faltered, his cocky demeanor crumbling. We may have had prior knowledge of potential unrest. We thought we could handle it ourselves to prove our worth. Marek's eyes widened in shock. You knew of this threat and said nothing? As the young diplomat's involvement in both the earlier sabotage attempt and this security breach came to light, Roger maintained his focus on containing the crisis. He coordinated with Earth's security forces, directed the Praelorian defenses, and kept the princess safe, all while presenting a calm, authoritative presence. Hours later, with the threat neutralized and the extremists in custody, Roger found himself once again in the private meeting room with Princess Merrick. The atmosphere had shifted dramatically. Mr. Powell, Merrick began, her voice softer than before, your actions tonight have given me much to consider. I believe I've underestimated the value of human longevity. Roger nodded, feeling the weight of the night's events. I hope this incident doesn't derail our negotiations, Your Highness. There's still much to discuss regarding the retirement age proposal. Merrick's lips curved into what Roger assumed was a Praelorian smile. Indeed. In fact, I have a proposal of my own. I'd like you to personally guide me on a tour of Earth's most significant historical and cultural sites. I believe I have much to learn about your species, particularly from one as experienced as yourself. Roger blinked, taken aback by the unexpected request. I'm honored, Your Highness. However, such an arrangement would be highly unusual. Precisely why it's necessary, Merrick insisted. Tonight has shown me that there's much about humans I don't understand. I believe you're uniquely qualified to bridge that gap. As Roger considered the implications of Merrick's request, he realized that the landscape of human Praelorian relations had shifted dramatically in just one night. The challenges ahead were complex, but for the first time since the ultimatum, he felt a glimmer of hope. Little did he know, as news of the princess's request spread, it would spark debates and controversy in both human and Prilorian societies, challenging long-held beliefs about age, leadership, and the very nature of interspecies relationships. The sun had barely risen over the horizon when Roger Powell found himself boarding a private jet bound for Rome. Princess Merrick stood beside him, her bioluminescent eyes wide with anticipation. As the plane took off, Roger couldn't help but marvel at the series of events that had led to this moment. "I must admit, Your Highness, this is quite an unusual diplomatic arrangement," Roger said, settling into his seat. Merrick tilted her head, a gesture Roger had come to recognize as curiosity. "Unusual times call for unusual measures, Mr. Powell. I believe this tour will be enlightening for both our species." As they touched down in Rome, the ancient city sprawled before them, a tapestry of history and culture. Roger led Merrick through the winding streets to their first stop, the Colosseum. The massive structure loomed before them, its weathered stone a testament to the passage of time. "This arena is over 2,000 years old," Roger explained as they walked through the arched entryways. "It's a symbol of human empire, both its grandeur and its flaws." Merrick ran her hand along the ancient stone, her alien features etched with wonder. 2,000 years? And it still stands. Our oldest structures barely reach 5 centuries. Roger nodded, a hint of pride in his voice. Human civilizations have risen and fallen many times over millennia, each leaving its mark on our world and our culture. They continued to the Roman Forum, where crumbling columns and half-standing walls painted a picture of a once great empire. Roger explained the concept of human empires, their rise and inevitable fall, and how these cycles had shaped Earth's current societies. Merrick listened intently, her perception of human history expanding with each step. "It's fascinating how your species builds on the past, learning from both triumphs and failures. In Prilorian culture, we often discard the old in favor of the new." Their next stop was Vatican City. As they entered St. Peter's Square, they witnessed an elderly pope leading a mass. Thousands of humans stood in reverent silence, their eyes fixed on the frail figure in white. Merrick's mandibles clicked softly in astonishment. "This elder, he commands such respect. How can this be? In our world, one so aged would be sequestered, not venerated." Roger explained the human concept of wisdom gained through experience, particularly in spiritual and religious contexts. Many humans believe that with age comes a deeper understanding of life and its mysteries. This pope has devoted decades to his faith and his followers. Merrick fell silent, contemplating this alien notion. The idea that age could bring value rather than obsolescence challenged everything she had been taught. As they boarded a train to Paris, Roger received an urgent message. The Prilorian Council had rejected the proposal for a mandatory retirement age on Earth, citing the need for further cultural understanding. The news spread quickly, eliciting mixed reactions from both humans and Prilorians. "It seems our tour is already having an impact," Roger mused, showing Merrick the message. She nodded, her eyes gleaming with an emotion Roger couldn't quite decipher. "Perhaps my people are beginning to see what I'm seeing." In Paris, they made their way to the Louvre. As they walked through the grand galleries, Merrick found herself captivated by the portraits of distinguished older men and women. She stopped in front of a painting of an elderly woman, her face etched with wrinkles, eyes twinkling with life. "She's beautiful," Merrick whispered, her voice filled with awe. "I've never seen age portrayed this way before." Roger smiled, explaining the human appreciation for the beauty of maturity. "Each line tells a story, each gray hair a testament to a life well lived." As they exited the Louvre, Roger's communicator buzzed urgently. It was a message from the human government requesting his immediate return to negotiate a new agreement with the Prilorians. The message stressed the importance of addressing concerns about human longevity without imposing arbitrary age limits. Roger's face fell as he read the message. He turned to Merrick, conflict evident in his eyes. "Your Highness, I'm afraid our tour may need to be cut short. I've been called back for urgent negotiations." Merrick's eyes narrowed in thought. After a moment, she spoke. What if I were to accompany you to these negotiations? My newfound understanding of human culture could prove valuable in bridging the gap between our species. Roger blinked in surprise. That's unprecedented. A royal participating directly in diplomatic talks? It could cause quite a stir. Precisely why it might be effective, Merrick countered. Our tour has already challenged my preconceptions. Perhaps it's time to challenge some diplomatic norms as well. As they debated the merits of Merrick's suggestion, Roger received another message. A group of young Prylorian scientists, led by Dr. Zara Vex, had arrived on Earth to study human aging processes. They were particularly interested in the phenomenon of silver foxes and had requested to include Roger in their study. Roger's brow furrowed as he read the details of their research methods. Invasive scans, DNA sampling, this raises some serious ethical concerns. Marek leaned in, reading over his shoulder. Dr. Vex is known for her ambitious research methods, but her work has led to significant advancements in Prylorian medicine. As they prepared to board a hypersonic jet back to diplomatic headquarters, the situation grew even more complex. Jake Thompson and Liam Hunter, the young diplomats who had previously plotted against Roger, had uncovered evidence suggesting Dr. Vex's research might have hidden military applications. Roger's mind raced as he considered the implications. The negotiations ahead would be more delicate than he had anticipated, with personal, scientific, and potentially military interests all at play. As they settled into their seats on the jet, Merrick turned to Roger, her eyes glowing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. It seems our cultural exchange has taken an unexpected turn, Mr. Powell. Roger nodded, his expression grave. Indeed, Your Highness, I fear we're about to enter uncharted diplomatic territory. The hypersonic jet lifted off, streaking across the sky towards an uncertain future. As Earth's landscape blurred beneath them, Roger knew that the coming negotiations would test not only his diplomatic skills, but also the very foundation of human-Prylorian relations. As the hypersonic jet descended towards the diplomatic headquarters, Roger's eyes widened at the sight below. A sea of protesters surrounded the building, their chants and shouts audible even through the aircraft's hull. Humans and Prylorians alike waved signs and banners, their messages a cacophony of conflicting views on interspecies relations and age and leadership. It seems our return has caused quite a stir, Roger observed, his brow furrowing as he assessed the situation. Princess Merrick leaned forward, her bioluminescent eyes pulsing with concern. I've never seen such a gathering of both our species. This is unprecedented. The jet touched down on a secure landing pad, and as the doors opened, the full force of the crowd's energy hit them. Security forces formed a tight cordon around Roger and Marek as they made their way towards the building's entrance. The princess's antenna twitched nervously as they passed through the throng of protesters, their voices rising to a fever pitch. Equality for all ages, shouted one group of humans. Preserve Prylorian tradition, countered a cluster of aliens, their mandibles clicking in agitation. Roger placed a steadying hand on Merrick's shoulder as they navigated the chaos. Stay close, Your Highness. We're almost inside. As they entered the relative calm of the headquarters, Roger's relief was short-lived. Jake Thompson and Liam Hunter, the young diplomats who had once plotted against him, approached with urgency in their steps. Mr. Powell, we need to speak with you immediately, Jake said, his earlier cockiness replaced by genuine concern. Roger nodded, guiding Princess Merrick to a quiet corner. What have you found? Liam produced a data pad, his fingers trembling slightly as he pulled up a series of documents. It's about Dr. Zara Vex and her research team. We've uncovered evidence suggesting their true intent is far more than simple aging studies. Roger's eyes narrowed as he scanned the information. Military applications? This is troubling, to say the least. Princess Merrick peered over his shoulder, her antenna twitching rapidly. Surely there must be some mistake. Dr. Vex is one of our most respected scientists. Roger straightened, his mind focused. Mistake or not, we can't proceed with negotiations until this is addressed. I need to inform both human and Prylorian officials immediately. As Roger made his way to the main conference room, The atmosphere grew tense. Human and Prylorian delegates gathered around, murmurs of confusion turning to shouts of anger as Roger presented the findings. "This is an outrage," bellowed the human Secretary of State, his face flushing red. "We demand a full investigation into these allegations." The Prylorian Prime Minister's mandibles clacked rapidly, a sign of agitation. "These accusations are baseless. We categorically deny any military intent behind our research." As the room erupted into chaos, Princess Merrick slipped away, her mind racing. She found Dr. Vex in a nearby laboratory, hunched over a series of complex holographic displays. "Dr. Vex," Merrick said, her voice carrying the full weight of her royal authority, "I require answers, and I require them now." The scientist turned, her compound eyes widening in surprise. "Your Highness, I don't understand." Merrick's eyes pulsed with an intensity that made even the seasoned scientist step back. "The true nature of your research, Doctor, is it meant for military use against the humans?" Dr. Vex's antennae drooped, a sign of resignation. Not exactly, Your Highness. The research does have potential military applications. Yes, but that's not our primary goal." "Then what is?" Merrick pressed. Dr. Vex hesitated, then activated a holographic display. It showed a Prylorian DNA strand with several segments highlighted in red. "We're dying, Your Highness. Our species. This genetic disorder is shortening our lifespans with each generation. We came here to study human longevity in hopes of saving ourselves from extinction." Merrick stared at the display, her knees going weak from the implications. She needed to tell Roger. Meanwhile, in the conference room, tensions had reached a boiling point. Accusations flew back and forth between human and Prylorian delegates. Roger stood in the center, trying to maintain order, when Princess Merrick burst in. "Stop!" she called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. All eyes turned to her as she explained Dr. Vex's admission and the true nature of the Prylorian genetic crisis. A hush fell over the room as the delegates processed this new information. Roger's mind raced, seeing an opportunity amidst the chaos. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, his voice steady and clear, "I propose we redirect our efforts. Instead of focusing on retirement ages or secret projects, let us work together. A joint human Prylorian research initiative to address this genetic disorder and improve quality of life for all our people." The room buzzed with cautious optimism as delegates on both sides considered the proposal. However, before any consensus could be reached, the doors burst open once more. A group of elderly Prylorians entered, led by a regal figure with deep purple skin and elaborately curved antenna. Princess Merrick's eyes widened in recognition. "High Counselor Drac," she whispered to Roger, "the leader of our most conservative faction." Drac's eyes pulsed with impossibly strong fury as he surveyed the room. "What madness is this? Genetic modification? Collaboration with humans? Princess Merrick, you have clearly been corrupted by your time on this planet. You will return home immediately." Roger stepped forward, placing himself between Merrick and the irate counselor. "With all due respect, High Counselor, Princess Merrick's presence has been invaluable in bridging the cultural gap between our species." Drac's antenna quivered with indignation. "And who are you to speak on matters of Prylorian politics, human?" Roger straightened, meeting the counselor's gaze. "I am Roger Powell, Earth's chief negotiator, and I have a proposal that might satisfy all parties involved." As Roger outlined his plan for a mixed delegation to the Prylorian homeworld, a commotion arose from the laboratory wing. Dr. Vex burst into the room, her eyes wide with excitement. "We've done it," she exclaimed, waving a datapad. "We've identified genetic markers in human silver foxes that could be the key to solving our longevity issue." All eyes turned to Roger, the implications of this discovery hanging heavily in the air. High Counselor Drac's mandibles worked silently, his worldview visibly shaken. Princess Merrick stepped forward, her voice ringing clear through the stunned silence. "I will remain on Earth as Prylorian ambassador. Our future lies in cooperation, not isolation." As the delegates erupted into discussion, Roger found himself at the center of a storm of attention. Human and Prylorian scientists alike clamored for his participation in further studies. Amidst the chaos, Merrick approached Roger, her eyes glowing with an emotion he couldn't quite name. "It seems, Mr. Powell, that our adventure is not nearly finished." Roger nodded, a mix of apprehension and excitement coursing through him. As preparations for the journey to the Prylorian homeworld began around them, he realized that the true test of human-Prylorian relations was only just beginning. Roger took a deep breath, steeling himself for the challenges ahead. "We have much to prepare," he said, addressing the assembled delegates. "Our journey to the Prylorian homeworld will be a crucial step in fostering understanding between our species." As the mixed delegation began their preparations, Roger found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity. Scientists, diplomats, and officials from both Earth and Prylar scrambled to organize equipment, compile data, and finalize travel arrangements. Amidst the chaos, Jake Thompson and Liam Hunter approached Roger, their expressions a mix of perseverance and apprehension. "Mr. Powell," Jake began, his voice steady despite his nervousness, "we'd like to request permission to join the mission as junior diplomats." Roger raised an eyebrow, studying the two young men. Their earlier scheme against him seemed a distant memory now, replaced by genuine eagerness to contribute. After a moment's consideration, Roger nodded. "Very well. Your perspectives could be valuable, but remember, this mission is about building bridges, not personal agendas." Relief washed over their faces as they nodded in agreement. As the departure date drew near, the team assembled on the launch pad. The sleek Prylorian spacecraft towered above them, its otherworldly design a stark reminder of the journey ahead. Princess Merrick stood beside Roger, her bioluminescent eyes pulsing with excitement. "It feels strange, doesn't it? Returning home as an ambassador for Earth." Roger smiled, understanding the weight of her words. "Change often does, Your Highness, but it's through change that we grow." The boarding process was a flurry of activity as humans and Prylorians alike stowed equipment and settled into their quarters. Dr. Zaravex wasted no time, setting up a makeshift lab in one of the ship's compartments. "Mr. Powell," she called out as Roger passed by, "I'd like to begin preliminary tests on you and the other human males over 60 as soon as we're in transit." Roger nodded, suppressing a chuckle at the scientist's eagerness. "Of course, Doctor. Just try not to turn us into lab experiments, if you please." As the ship lifted off, its advanced propulsion system humming softly, Roger found himself gazing out a viewport at the receding Earth. The enormity of their mission settled over him like a heavy cloak. The journey to Prylar provided ample opportunity for unexpected interactions between the two species. In the ship's common areas, humans and Prylorians mingled, sharing meals, swapping stories, and navigating the occasional cultural misunderstanding. Princess Merrick observed these interactions with rapt attention, her antenna twitching as she took mental notes. She found herself particularly drawn to the easy camaraderie among the older human males, including Roger and his contemporaries. During one such gathering, Merrick approached Roger, her curiosity evident. "I've noticed something peculiar, Mr. Powell. The older human males seem to joke more freely with each other, even about potentially sensitive topics like age or physical limitations. It's so different from Prylorian norms." Roger smiled, his eyes crinkling at the corners. "Humor is often how we humans cope with life's challenges, Your Highness. Sometimes, laughing at ourselves helps us accept our own mortality." Merrick's eyes pulsed thoughtfully. "Fascinating. Perhaps there's more to learn from human aging than just genetics." As they neared Prylar, anticipation built among the delegation. For many of the humans, this would be their first time setting foot on an alien world. The ship descended through Prylar's atmosphere, revealing a landscape of sweeping purple plains and towering crystalline structures. As they touched down on the outskirts of the capital city, Roger's breath caught in his throat at the sight of the welcoming committee. Thousands of Prylorians had gathered to witness the arrival of the human delegation. Their collective bioluminescence created a dazzling light show against the planet's twilight sky. As the ship's doors opened, Roger stepped out alongside Princess Merrick, acutely aware of the historic nature of this moment. The crowd's excited chittering rose to a crescendo as they caught sight of the humans. High Counselor Drax stood at the forefront of the welcoming party, his ornate robes and elaborately curved antennae marking him as a figure of great importance. His expression was a carefully neutral mask as he approached. "Welcome to Prylar," Drax intoned, his voice carrying across the gathering. "We trust your journey was enlightening." Roger stepped forward, bowing slightly in respect. "High Counselor, on behalf of Earth, we thank you for your hospitality. We look forward to fostering greater understanding between our peoples." As the formal greetings concluded, the delegation was ushered towards a grand crystalline structure that served as the seat of Prylorian government. The reception that followed was a whirlwind of introductions, cultural displays, and carefully choreographed speeches. Throughout the event, Roger couldn't help but notice the stark contrast between the seemingly youthful Prylorian elders and the respect accorded to older humans like himself. The Prylorians' shorter lifespans had created a society where physical age and social standing were deeply disconnected. As Roger navigated the reception, he overheard snippets of conversation that hinted at the underlying tensions within Prylorian society. Some expressed excitement about the potential breakthroughs in longevity research, while others voiced concerns about the impact on their traditions and social structure. Suddenly, a commotion erupted near the entrance to the reception hall. A group of young Prylorians pushed their way inside, brandishing signs with slogans written in both Prylorian and English. "Eternal life for all," one sign proclaimed. "End age discrimination," declared another. Security personnel moved to intercept the protesters, but Roger raised a hand, stepping forward to address the group. "Please," he said, his voice calm but firm, "let them speak. We're here to listen and understand, not to silence." The young Prylorians, momentarily taken aback by Roger's intervention, gathered themselves. Their leader, a slender Prylorian with vibrant green skin, stepped forward. "We demand access to the human genetic research," she declared, her antennae quivering with emotion. "Withholding potential longevity treatments is a form of age discrimination. All Prylorians deserve the chance at a longer life." The room erupted into heated debate, with Prylorian officials arguing among themselves about the proper response to this unexpected demonstration. Roger exchanged a glance with Princess Marek, seeing the same realization in her eyes. The issues they had come to address ran far deeper than they had anticipated. The fate of Prylorian society itself hung in the balance, and their actions in the coming days would shape the future of both species. As the chaos of the reception swirled around them, Roger knew that their real work was just beginning. The path ahead would require all of his diplomatic skill, and perhaps more importantly, a deep well of empathy and understanding for a culture on the brink of monumental change. The implications of their discoveries, and the potential for altering Prylorian society burdened immensely on everyone's minds. As Roger contemplated their next steps, an urgent message from Earth interrupted his thoughts. Dr. Vex's research facility had been attacked. Roger's heart raced as he absorbed the news, immediately recognizing the potential consequences for their mission. "We need to secure the research data," Roger announced to the delegation, his voice steady despite the tension evident in his posture. "Princess Marek, can you arrange for a security team?" Within hours, Roger found himself leading a joint human-Prylorian security team to the compromised facility. The damage was extensive, but thanks to Dr. Vex's foresight in implementing multiple backups, they successfully retrieved the vital research data. As they made their way back to the capital, Roger couldn't shake the feeling that this incident would have far-reaching consequences. His suspicions were confirmed when they arrived to find the city in uproar. News of the attack had spread rapidly, igniting a planet-wide debate about the future of Prylorian society and their relationship with humans. Crowds gathered in the streets, their bioluminescent skin flickering with a mixture of excitement and anxiety. Roger watched from a balcony as opposing factions faced off, their antennae twitching with agitation. On one side, young Prylorians chanted slogans advocating for closer ties with humans and access to longevity treatments. On the other, traditionalists demanded a return to isolation, fearing the loss of their cultural identity. "This situation is volatile," Princess Marek observed, her eyes pulsing with concern. We need to act quickly to prevent further unrest. Roger nodded, an unprecedented idea forming in his mind. Your Highness, I believe I have a solution. It's unconventional, but it might just work. He outlined his proposal, a live planet-wide broadcast of human mating rituals and courtship practices. The suggestion was met with stunned silence from the Prilorian officials present. Mr. Powell, High Counselor Drax sputtered, his antennae curled in shock. Surely you can't be serious. I am, Roger replied firmly. This demonstration will not only satisfy your people's curiosity about human biology, but also showcase the emotional and social aspects of our relationships that contribute to our longevity. After hours of heated deliberation, the Prilorian Council reluctantly agreed to the proposal, seeing it as a way to quell public unrest and provide a distraction from the recent attack. Preparations began immediately. A location resembling a typical human home was constructed, and Roger recruited Jake Thompson, Liam Hunter, Dr. Emily Sato, and Dr. Olivia Reeves to participate in the demonstration. As the day of the broadcast approached, anticipation built across the planet. Prilorian media dubbed the event the Human Mating Spectacle, and billions prepared to tune in. Roger stood before the cameras, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. People of Prilor, he began, his voice calm and measured. Today, we invite you to observe and learn about human relationships in all their complexity. The broadcast began with Jake and Dr. Sato demonstrating a first date scenario. They sat at a table, engaging in a light conversation over a meal. Roger narrated, explaining the concept of getting to know one another and building emotional connections. Prilorian viewers watched in fascination as Jake complimented Emily's research, and she laughed at his jokes. The seemingly mundane interaction was entirely foreign to a species used to rapid mate selection, based primarily on physical attributes. Next, Liam and Dr. Reeves showcased a more established relationship. They held hands, exchanged tender glances, and engaged in playful banter. Roger explained the human concept of long-term companionship, emphasizing the role of shared experiences and emotional support in maintaining relationships over decades. As the demonstration progressed to more intimate aspects of human relationships, Roger could sense the collective shock of the Prilorian audience. The emphasis on consent, the variety of non-reproductive intimate activities, and the slow pace of human courtship were all radical departures from Prilorian norms. In a private viewing room, Princess Marek watched the broadcast with other Prilorian officials. Her eyes pulsed with interest as she observed the interactions between the human couples. For the first time, she began to understand the appeal of older human males, recognizing the value of experience and emotional maturity in long-term partnerships. As the broadcast continued, Dr. Vex burst into the control room, her antennae quivering with excitement. "Mr. Powell," she exclaimed, "we've made a breakthrough. We've identified a key interaction between human hormones and Prilorian DNA that could potentially extend Prilorian lifespans." The news spread quickly, adding another layer of complexity to the ongoing cultural upheaval. Suddenly, the possibility of adopting human practices wasn't just a matter of cultural exchange. It could be the key to extending Prilorian lives. As the demonstration approached its conclusion, a commotion erupted outside the broadcast facility. A group of conservative Prilorians, led by High Counselor Drax, attempted to shut down the broadcast. "This human depravity must not continue," Drax shouted, his skin flashing with indignation. "It's corrupting our youth and threatening our values." But before they could reach the controls, a wave of young Prilorians surged forward, forming a protective barrier around the facility. Their antennae vibrated with purpose as they chanted, "Let us learn. Let us choose." The situation quickly escalated, spreading across the planet like wildfire. What had begun as a cultural demonstration had ignited a full-scale societal revolution. The Prilorian government, recognizing the gravity of the situation, announced a planet-wide referendum on Prilorian human relations. Roger found himself at the center of a whirlwind of activity, coordinating with both human and Prilorian authorities to ensure a fair and transparent voting process. He became the face of the pro-human campaign, appearing in Prilorian media to explain the benefits of cooperation and cultural exchange. As tensions rose and the day of the vote approached, Princess Merrick made a shocking announcement. Standing before a crowd of millions, her bioluminescence pulsing with conviction, she declared, "I, Princess Merrick of Prylar, will be the first to undergo the experimental longevity treatment derived from human DNA." The declaration sent shockwaves through Prylorian society. Supporters hailed her as a visionary, while traditionalists decried her decision as a betrayal of Prylorian values. As the referendum drew near, the streets of the Prylorian capital became a sea of clashing colors and flickering lights as pro-human and isolationist factions faced off. Roger watched from the balcony of the diplomatic quarters, the weight of responsibility heavy on his shoulders. "The fate of both our species hangs in the balance," he murmured to Princess Merrick, who stood beside him. She nodded, her eyes fixed on the tumultuous scene below. "Whatever the outcome, Mr. Powell, nothing will ever be the same for Prylar or Earth." As the first votes began to be cast, Roger steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The future of human-Prylorian relations, and potentially the future of both species, would be decided in the coming hours, and he knew that his work, far from being over, was only just beginning. As the first votes began to be cast, Roger steeled himself for the challenges ahead. The future of human-Prylorian relations, and potentially the future of both species, would be decided in the coming hours, and he knew that his work, far from being over, was only just beginning. The Prylorian capital buzzed with an energy unlike anything Roger had ever experienced. Bioluminescent displays flickered across buildings, transmitting real-time voting data. Streets teemed with Prylorians of all ages, their skin pulsing with a rainbow of emotions. Roger's comm device chimed incessantly as he coordinated with human and Prylorian officials. "We need more observers in the southern hemisphere," he instructed, his fingers flying across the holographic interface. "And make sure the quantum encryption on the voting systems is holding." Princess Merrick approached, her antenna twitching with nervous energy. "Mr. Powell, it's time. The treatment is ready." Roger nodded, his expression a mixture of concern and hope. "Are you certain about this, Your Highness? The risks are necessary," Merrick finished, her eyes pulsing with tenacity. "My people need to see that this isn't just theory. It's real, and I'm willing to stake my life on it." They made their way to Dr. Vex's facility, pushing through crowds of chanting Prylorians. Inside, the research team had prepared a sterile chamber filled with cutting-edge human and Prylorian medical technology. Dr. Vex greeted them, her usual enthusiasm tempered by the gravity of the moment. "Everything is ready, Princess. Are you prepared for the galaxy to watch?" Merrick took a deep breath, her bioluminescence shifting to a calm blue. "I am." As Merrick entered the chamber, Roger turned to the camera feeds. Billions of Prylorians and humans alike were tuning in to witness this historic moment. He cleared his throat and addressed the audience. "People of Prylar and Earth, what you are about to witness is more than a medical procedure. It is a bridge between our species, built on trust, science, and hope." The procedure began. Merrick's body was bathed in a soft glow as the human-derived genetic treatment was administered. Minutes stretched into hours as the galaxy watched, breath held collectively. Suddenly, alarms blared through the facility. Jake Thompson's voice crackled over the comm. "Roger, we've got a problem. Someone's trying to hack the voting systems." Roger's mind raced. "Can you stop it?" "Working on it," Jake replied, the sound of furious typing in the background. "Liam and I are collaborating with Prylorian techs. We'll keep you posted." As Roger dealt with the cyber crisis, Dr. Vex emerged from the treatment chamber, her antennae quivering with excitement. "It's working. Early tests show increased cellular regeneration. Princess Merrick's biological age has already decreased by several years." The news spread like wildfire. Crowds outside the facility erupted in cheers, their skin flashing in jubilant patterns. But amidst the celebration, Roger noticed a commotion near the back of the room. High Counselor Drac pushed his way forward, his green skin mottled with angry red patches. "This is an outrage. You're destroying everything that makes us Prylorian." Before Roger could respond, a group of young Prylorians surrounded Drac, their antennae vibrating in unison. "Let us choose our own future," they chanted. The confrontation was interrupted by Jake's voice on the comm. Roger, we've neutralized the hack. The voting systems are secure. Relief washed over Roger, but it was short-lived. Reports began flooding in of a new crisis. A black market youth serum was causing chaos across the planet. Dr. Vex, Roger called. We need to address this immediately. Can you put together a team to handle the medical emergencies? As they scrambled to respond to the crisis, Princess Marek emerged from the treatment chamber. The change was subtle but undeniable. Her skin glowed with renewed vitality, her movements more fluid and energetic. My people, she addressed the cameras, her voice strong and clear. I stand before you as living proof of what we can achieve through cooperation with our human friends. But I must warn you against seeking quick fixes or dangerous alternatives. True progress requires patience, understanding, and trust. Roger watched as Marek's words visibly impacted the crowds. The tide of public opinion was shifting, but the final outcome remained uncertain. As night fell on the Prylorian capital, Roger found himself on a balcony overlooking the city. The sky was alive with aurora-like displays, the visual representation of millions of votes being cast. Princess Marek joined him, her newly rejuvenated form casting a soft glow in the darkness. Whatever happens, Mr. Powell, you've changed us forever. Roger nodded, his eyes fixed on the horizon. The question is, Your Highness, is it change for the better? Before Marek could respond, a blinding flash lit up the sky. Alarms blared across the city as the ground trembled beneath their feet. What's happening? Roger shouted over the din. A Prylorian aide rushed onto the balcony, his skin flashing urgent patterns. It's our planetary shields. They're failing under a massive solar storm. Roger's mind raced with the implications. The referendum, the medical crisis, all of it would be moot if they couldn't protect the planet. He turned to Marek, seeing the same realization in her eyes. Your Highness, he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around them, I think it's time we show your people what our species can really do when we work together. As they rushed to coordinate a response to this new threat, Roger knew that the next few hours would determine not just the outcome of the referendum, but the very survival of Prylor itself. As Roger and Princess Marek raced to coordinate a response to the failing planetary shields, a sudden calm washed over them. The chaos around them seemed to fade away as an inexplicable connection formed between their minds. In an instant, they found themselves linked not only to each other, but also to High Counselor Drac and other key leaders across the planet. The mind meld enveloped them in a shared consciousness, transcending physical boundaries. Thoughts, memories, and emotions flowed freely between humans and Prylorians. Roger experienced the deep-seated fears of the conservative Prylorians, their genuine concern for preserving their way of life. At the same time, Drac felt the sincere desire of the humans to help and collaborate, free from any hidden agendas. As the experience intensified, misconceptions dissolved. The Prylorians saw the richness of human relationships, the value of their extended lifespans, and the potential for growth and change. The humans, in turn, gained a profound understanding of Prylorian biology, their unique perception of time, and the intricacies of their social structure. When the mind meld concluded, they found themselves back on the balcony, the alarms still blaring around them. High Counselor Drac stumbled, his skin shifting through a kaleidoscope of colors as he processed the experience. I was wrong, Drac said, his voice barely above a whisper. The humans truly mean us no harm. Their intentions are pure. Roger blinked, still reeling from the intensity of the shared consciousness. And we understand your concerns now, Counselor. We can work together to address them. Princess Marek stepped forward, her newly rejuvenated form glowing with purpose. We must act quickly. Our people need to know the truth. As they mobilized to address the immediate crisis of the failing shields, word of the mind meld spread rapidly. The shared experience of the leaders had been broadcast telepathically across the planet, reaching millions of Prylorians in an instant. The impact was immediate and profound. As Roger coordinated with human engineers to reinforce the planetary shields, he noticed a shift in the Prylorians around him. The hostility and suspicion had vanished, replaced by curiosity and a willingness to cooperate. Hours later, with the shield stabilized and the immediate danger past, attention turned to the referendum. The results, tallied with the help of the now secure voting system, were staggering. An overwhelming 87% of Prilorians had voted in favor of full cooperation with humans. The announcement echoed across the capital city, met with explosions of bioluminescent joy from the younger Prilorians and quiet acceptance from the older generation. High Counselor Drac, true to his revelation, publicly withdrew his opposition to human Prilorian cooperation, sending shockwaves through his conservative base. In the days that followed, change swept across Prilor at an unprecedented pace. The Prilorian Council, reshaped by the referendum, began implementing policies to integrate human social practices and medical advancements. Dr. Vex's research team, energized by the public support, redoubled their efforts on the longevity treatment. Within weeks, they announced a breakthrough that allowed for safe, large-scale production. "We've done it," Dr. Vex exclaimed, her antennae quivering with excitement as she addressed a joint human Prilorian press conference. "The treatment can now be safely administered to volunteers across our population." The Prilorian government quickly established a program to distribute the treatment, prioritizing those most affected by their species' genetic disorder. Clinics sprang up across the planet, with long lines of Prilorians eager to participate. Princess Marek, now fully experiencing the effects of the treatment, became a living symbol of the new era. Her physical appearance began to show subtle signs of human-like aging, faint lines around her eyes, a slight softening of her bioluminescent patterns. Initially met with shock, these changes gradually became viewed as marks of wisdom and experience. Roger found himself at the center of this cultural revolution. Tasked with overseeing the implementation of human-inspired social reforms, he assembled a diverse committee of humans and Prilorians. "Our goal," Roger addressed the committee, "is not to replace Prilorian culture, but to enhance it. We need to find ways to introduce concepts like retirement communities and intergenerational mentorship programs that respect Prilorian traditions." The introduction of human mating and courtship practices sparked a cultural firestorm among young Prilorians. Overnight, dating apps designed for Prilorian biology appeared on the planet's data networks. Restaurants reconfigured their spaces to create intimate settings for couples, a concept previously foreign to Prilorian dining. Jake and Liam, fresh from their success in securing the voting systems, found themselves recruited to help develop a new form of government. They worked tirelessly with Prilorian political scientists to create a hybrid system that combined elements of human democracy with Prilorian traditions. "It's like nothing we've ever seen before," Jake explained to a group of eager Prilorian students. "Imagine a system where citizens can vote on issues directly through neural interfaces while still maintaining the guidance of experienced leaders." As these changes unfolded, Dr. Emily Sato and her team of human scientists made a startling discovery. Some Prilorians who had undergone the longevity treatment were exhibiting enhanced psychic abilities. "We're seeing instances of telepathy and even telekinesis," Dr. Sato reported, her voice filled with a mixture of awe and concern. "It appears the treatment is activating latent abilities in the Prilorian brain." This development caught the attention of Earth's military leaders. General Marcus Steele arrived on Prilor, his stated mission to discuss defense cooperation. However, as he observed the enhanced Prilorians demonstrating their newfound abilities, a glint of something more appeared in his eyes. Amidst the whirlwind of change, Princess Marek and Roger found their relationship evolving in unexpected ways. Their shared experiences and deepened understanding had fostered a connection that transcended professional boundaries. As they walked through a newly established park designed to accommodate both human and Prilorian recreational needs, Marek turned to Roger. "I never imagined I could feel this way about someone from another species," she said, her skin pulsing with a soft, warm glow. Roger felt a flutter in his chest, a sensation both familiar and alien. "I think we're charting new territory here, Your Highness," he replied with a smile. Their budding romance became a subject of intense fascination for both humans and Prilorians, challenging long-held notions of age, beauty, and interspecies relationships. As news of the successful human-Prilorian cooperation spread beyond their solar systems, it caught the attention of other spacefaring races. Without warning, a sleek, otherworldly ship appeared in Prilorian orbit. A transmission crackled through the planetary communication systems. "Greetings, people of Prilor and Earth. We are the Zortax Confederation. Your recent achievements have not gone unnoticed. We come seeking diplomatic relations with both your species." Roger and Merrick exchanged glances, recognizing that their world had just become much larger and more complex. The next chapter in human-Prilorian relations was about to unfold on a galactic stage. As the sleek Zortax ship descended through Prilor's atmosphere, Roger and Merrick watched from the balcony of the Capitol building. The vessel's iridescent hull shimmered, reflecting the aurora-like patterns that still lingered in the sky. "This changes everything," Merrick said, her skin pulsing with a mix of excitement and apprehension. Roger nodded, his mind already racing with the implications. "We need to assemble a welcoming committee immediately and contact Earth. They'll want representatives here as soon as possible." Within hours, a tri-species summit was underway in the Grand Hall of the Prilorian Council. The Zortax delegation, led by Ambassador Zyle, cut an imposing figure. Tall and willowy, with 4 arms and skin that seemed to shift colors like oil on water, they exuded an air of ancient wisdom. "We have observed your species with great interest," Zyle addressed the gathered leaders, their voice a melodious hum. "The alliance you are forging is unprecedented in our records." As the summit progressed, the true nature of the Zortax's interest became clear. Ambassador Zyle's next words sent a ripple of tension through the room. "We propose a galactic alliance with humans and Prilorians as key members," they announced. "There is a growing threat that concerns us all, the Crack's dominion." Holographic displays flickered to life, showing the aggressive expansion of the Crack's empire across star systems. The warlike species' conquests were laid bare in stark, graphic detail. General Marcus Steele, who had arrived from Earth just hours earlier, leaned forward, his eyes gleaming with a mixture of concern and opportunity. "This is a serious threat to Earth's security. We need to consider this alliance carefully." However, not everyone shared Steele's enthusiasm. High Counselor Drac, still adjusting to the rapid changes in Prilorian society, voiced his concerns. "We have only just begun to understand our place alongside humans. Are we ready to engage with the wider galaxy?" As debate raged, Princess Merrick stepped forward, her newly rejuvenated form commanding attention. "Perhaps there's another way," she said, her voice clear and confident. "What if we combined our strengths, human diplomacy, Prilorian psychic abilities, and Zortax technology, to negotiate with the Cracks?" The proposal sent a buzz through the assembly. Roger, recognizing the potential of Merrick's idea, quickly lent his support. "A specialized task force could be our best chance at avoiding outright conflict." As discussions about the Galactic Alliance continued, Dr. Vex burst into the chamber, her antennae quivering with excitement. "Forgive the interruption, but we've made a breakthrough," she exclaimed. "The psychic abilities we're seeing in treated Prilorians? They're not new. They're dormant potential that exists in both our species." The revelation sent shockwaves through the human contingent. General Steele's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. "Are you saying humans could develop these abilities too?" Dr. Vex nodded emphatically. "With the right treatment, it's possible." As the summit grappled with this new information, reports began flooding in of massive demonstrations erupting across Prilorian cities. Holographic feeds showed thousands of young Prilorians, their skin flashing with patterns of defiance, demanding immediate adoption of human-style democratic elections. Roger turned to Merrick, recognizing the urgency of the situation. "We need to address this now, or everything we've worked for could unravel." Together they rushed to the central plaza, where the largest gathering had formed. As they approached the crowd, Roger felt a familiar sensation, the beginning of a mind meld. This time, however, it wasn't just with Marek. He could sense the collective consciousness of the entire crowd. Marek, her enhanced abilities now in full effect, projected a sense of calm over the assembly. "My fellow Prilorians," she began, her voice echoing both audibly and telepathically, "I understand your desire for change. but true progress requires patience and cooperation. As Roger and Merrick worked to quell the unrest, Jake and Liam were deep in the bowels of the Praelorian data networks. They had noticed anomalies in the psychic activity patterns across the planet. "This doesn't make sense," Jake muttered, his fingers flying over the holographic interface. "It's like some of these Praelorians are being controlled remotely." Liam's face paled as realization dawned. "Jake, what if the cracks are already here?" Their suspicions were confirmed when they uncovered encrypted transmissions originating from various points around the capital. The cracks had indeed infiltrated Praelar, using advanced technology to manipulate the enhanced Praelorians. As they raced to inform Roger, the situation in the plaza took a turn. Several Praelorians in the crowd suddenly turned violent, their eyes glazed over as if in a trance. Roger watched in horror as chaos erupted around them. "It's the cracks!" he shouted to Merrick over the din. "They're using the enhanced Praelorians as sleeper agents." Merrick's face set in stubborn persistence. "I can sense them now. Their psychic signature is different. Alien." Roger quickly coordinated with General Steele and Praelorian security forces to launch a covert operation. Mixed teams of humans and Praelorians began sweeping the city, using a combination of technology and psychic sensing to root out the cracks' infiltrators. As the operation unfolded, Merrick turned to Roger, her skin pulsing with a mix of fear and determination. "I can track them more effectively than anyone else," she said. "I need to use my abilities to their full extent." Roger felt his heart constrict. He knew the risks of such intense psychic confrontation. "Merrick, it's too dangerous. We can't lose you." She placed a hand on his cheek, her touch sending a jolt through his entire being. "This is bigger than us, Roger. The future of our species, of the entire galaxy, is at stake." As Merrick prepared to plunge into the psychic fray, Roger coordinated the efforts around her. The fate of their fledgling alliance, and perhaps the galaxy itself, hung in the balance. The next few hours would determine whether they faced the cracks' threat united or divided, and Roger knew that every decision he made could tip the scales. The next few hours would determine whether they faced the cracks' threat united or divided, and Roger knew that every decision he made could tip the balance. As the covert operation against the cracks' infiltrators reached its climax, Roger stood beside Princess Merrick in the bustling command center. Holographic displays flickered with real-time updates from across the Praelorian capital, casting an eerie glow on their faces. Merrick's skin pulsed with an intense, almost painful brightness as she focused her enhanced psychic abilities. Her eyes, normally a soft amber, now glowed with an otherworldly intensity. Roger watched with a mixture of awe and concern as she sifted through the psychic landscape of the city, searching for the alien signatures of the cracks agents. "There," Merrick said, her voice strained. She pointed to a holographic map of the city center, a cluster of them near the central archives. Roger relayed the information to Jake and Liam, who led the strike teams on the ground. He turned back to Merrick, noting the beads of sweat forming on her brow. "How are you holding up?" he asked, his voice low and filled with concern. Merrick's skin flickered, a sign of her fatigue. "I can manage," she said, her perseverance evident in the set of her jaw. "We can't stop now." Roger nodded, placing a supportive hand on her shoulder. The touch sent a jolt of energy through both of them, a reminder of their deepening connection. Across the city, Jake and Liam coordinated their mixed teams of humans and Praelorians. The sound of energy weapons and the crackle of psychic barriers filled the air as they engaged the exposed cracks agents. "Watch your six," Jake called out, ducking behind a fallen pillar as a burst of energy scorched the spot where he'd been standing. A young Praelorian, his skin pulsing with patterns of concentration, raised a psychic shield just in time to deflect another blast. Liam, coordinating from a makeshift command post, marveled at the seamless integration of human and Praelorian abilities. "Central, this is Strike Team Alpha," he reported. "We're making progress, but these cracks are putting up one hell of a fight." Back at the command center, Dr. Vex burst into the room, her antennae quivering with excitement. "We've done it," she exclaimed, her words tumbling out in a rush. We've found a way to reverse the Krax's psychic manipulations. Roger's eyes widened as he grasped the implications. Can you deploy it immediately? Dr. Vex nodded, her fingers flying over a portable terminal. Sending the data to all field teams now. It should allow us to free the controlled Prylorians and turn them against the Krax. The effect was almost immediate. Across the city, confused Prylorians began to shake off the Krax's influence, many immediately joining the fight against their former controllers. As the tide of the battle turned, Roger received an urgent communication from the Prylorian Council chambers. The Krax leadership, he said, his voice grim. They've taken High Counselor Drac hostage. Marek straightened, her exhaustion momentarily forgotten. We need to end this now, she said, her voice filled with commitment. Minutes later, Roger and Marek stood outside the grand doors of the council chambers, flanked by a team of human and Prylorian allies. Roger took a deep breath, his diplomatic instincts kicking into high gear. Remember, he said to the team, our priority is freeing Drac and capturing the Krax leaders. We need them alive for questioning. The doors slid open, revealing a scene of tense standoff. High Counselor Drac stood at the center of the chamber, his eyes glazed and unfocused, surrounded by a group of Krax. Their alien features, sharp and predatory, were twisted with desperation. Roger stepped forward, his hands raised in a gesture of peace. We have you surrounded, he said, his voice calm and authoritative. Your infiltration has failed. Surrender now and we can discuss terms. The Krax leader, a towering figure with iridescent scales, sneered. You think you've won, human? We still have options. As the Krax leader spoke, Marek's eyes widened in alarm. She sensed something, a building energy unlike anything she'd encountered before. Roger, she whispered urgently, they have some kind of device. It's wrong, dangerous. Roger's mind raced, quickly formulating a plan. He launched into an impassioned speech about galactic cooperation and the futility of the Krax's aggressive expansion. His words, carefully chosen, were designed not to convince but to distract. As Roger spoke, Marek closed her eyes, reaching out with her psychic senses. She could feel the device now, a pulsing knot of destructive potential hidden somewhere in the chamber. With painstaking care, she began to unravel its psychic triggers, working to render it inert. The Krax leader's hand moved towards a concealed panel on his armor. Enough of this, he snarled. If we can't have this world, no one will. In that moment, Roger and Marek acted as one. Roger lunged forward, his sudden movement catching the Krax off guard. Simultaneously, Marek unleashed a focused burst of psychic energy, targeting the device's final failsafe. There was a tense moment of silence, then a fizzle of dying energy. The Krax leader's face contorted in shock as he realized his doomsday gambit had failed. In the confusion that followed, Roger's team quickly overpowered the Krax leadership. High Counselor Drac, freed from their control, stumbled forward into the waiting arms of his fellow Prylorians. As the dust settled and the last of the Krax agents were rounded up, Roger found Marek leaning against an ornate pillar, her skin pulsing weakly. He rushed to her side, supporting her with a gentle arm. We did it, Marek said, a tired smile playing across her alien features. Roger nodded, his silver hair catching the light. We did, he agreed, but I have a feeling this is just the beginning. Outside the council chambers, the sounds of celebration were already beginning to fill the air. Humans, Prylorians, and Zortax mingled freely, their combined efforts having averted a crisis that could have torn their fledgling alliance apart before it even began. As medical teams arrived to tend to the wounded and security forces secured the Krax prisoners, Roger and Marek shared a quiet moment. They looked out over the city, where the first rays of dawn were beginning to break over the horizon. What happens now? Marek asked, her voice soft. Roger's gaze turned to the stars, still visible in the early morning sky. Now, he said, we build something new, together. The challenges ahead were numerous and daunting, but as Roger stood there with Marek, he felt a sense of hope. The galaxy was changing, and they were at the forefront of that change. Whatever came next, they would face it united.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.